Good evening. In case you didn't know, Lynn is in, Paul. Did you know that?
Lynn is in, that's
Lynn's
right.
in.
Yeah.
You know? And let me tell you what's happened. Here I am, minding my own business. By the way, we're going to get to other things in a bit, so we'll introduce our guest, and I want to give the little story about Lynn's in, because we are patenting it. You hear this here
right.
first.
Well, you know, you patent it, and then
Copyright.
legally you get the protection. But the most important thing is that you have proof that you were the first one to use it.
And
so by showing it right here,
Lynn
is in. This is going to be Joe's patent. Lynn is in. We are moving in this direction in a way to kind of promote the city and kind
Doesn't need to be promoted, because you know what, Paul? It's in.
Right, but we need to build on it.
Don't you think Sean Donahue is going to do the same?
Sean is it.
And Dennis the Menace over here, he's the guy that makes us look good every week, by the way, Paul. I hate to tell you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're
It's
welcome.
not easy to do, you know.
So by way of introduction, Dennis is a student at LynnCAM. What year are you in, Dennis?
I'm a senior.
He's a senior. He's been here a couple of years now, right? Is this your first year?
This is my first year.
First year. And Dennis does audio visual. Is that the program that you're in tech?
Yeah, it's the technical term for it, yes.
Yeah, okay. I took it when I was there in 1977.
Don't admit your age
Quite
there,
a
Paul.
ways ago.
And by the way, we're going to get into a segment on this, so let's get through it quickly. Go ahead.
But I just wanted to point out that LynnCAM has made the technical aspects of audio-visual, putting on presentations like this, available to the students at LynnTech. And Dennis is a product of that. He's doing a great job. Like
But
I said,
who's
he
the
makes us
boss?
look good.
Who's the boss of that
And
program?
And his boss is Sean Donahue.
Of course, he's in charge of daytime operations, right? Yeah. And all the other stuff. And I can...
But before you continue, boss, acquaintance, I mean, leader, I'd say
Yeah,
that.
leader. I like that.
But
Mentor.
We run, the way that we run now, it's a collective organization. So, I mean, you know, when I'm having an off day, Dave, you know, tells me what I need to do better. And it's the same thing vice versa, and even with Pedro. So it's a collective group. I just want to make that clear.
You didn't allow me
I'm
to
sorry.
introduce Pedro Diaz Jr.,
Yeah, I beat you.
Jr.,
Yes.
who happens to be the fellow who makes sure what program gets on here, and he happens to be our producer and director, and quite good at it. Our number here is 781-596-9641.
That's it.
So folks who like that idea of Lynn's in, what do they think of that? Patented, copywritten, first tier. And then we have, guess who, on the camera? Besides you, Dennis.
Dave
We have
Riley.
Dennis Riley.
Yeah.
Junior, another junior. Okay, excellent. Right. He does the equipment and
Social
gotta
media,
mention
the
social
website,
media, everything.
Facebook.
What about Donna?
Donna's
Currier.
great. Donna's the main person in charge of making sure that membership files are all set. She's also in charge of making sure that we have coffee, all the way to making sure that the place looks nice for the spring. So she'll spend time decorating. Great admin. Nice.
By the way, I want to commend you. I saw a wonderful, wonderful cut that you have about this Lynn In thing, where you showed Bobby Fennell's The Capitol Diner, which, by the way, is the only one left in the nation. You know, it's amazing. And then they did the Armory and a bunch of really historic sites. Dennis, were you involved in that at all?
I was not.
You were not.
He has to go to school.
Well, that's true. And the other thing, Paulie, you are a product not only of tech, but of Northeastern, which had a co-op program in itself, and we're going to be talking about that.
Yes, couldn't suggest anything more appropriate for somebody who's thinking about going to school. When you go to a school like Northeastern that provides cooperative education, and part of your education is actually working in your chosen field, it opens doors that would otherwise not be open. When I mean, timing is everything, I know that, but in 1987, the year I graduated, actually a year before I graduated, all of the big 8 public accounting firms back then, and I was an accountant, were coming on campus, and lots of other big companies were coming on looking for students with experience. And I interviewed with big 8 firms, got seven offers.
Was Mal your director when you were there?
No, he was my
Malagifta?
basketball coach.
He was?
Yes.
Oh, he's a...
But he actually got me my co-op job at Analogic.
He did.
I worked there for 2 years.
He was very instrumental in pushing the apprenticeship co-op program at LynnTech.
Yep.
And somehow they lost their way.
Well, you know, a big part of that was No Child Left Behind and MCAS and all these standardized testing things. That what they're doing is they're applying a concept that may have some redeeming qualities in an academic setting, and they're forcing it on the vocational world, where it's a different educational concept. So as a result, the kids aren't getting the chance to go out on co-op. They're being forced to stay in to do more reading, English, math,
But
science.
Dennis is here to break that trend, right? I mean, Dennis, you're in what is like a pilot program, are you not? It's an internship, I know, a cooperative something or other.
Basically what it is, it's 1 week I have academic classes, and the other week I'm here working and just doing what I can to help out.
That's a good concept.
Which is essentially a co-op job.
Yeah, it is.
You getting paid?
I hope.
I get paid by the city, yes.
Oh, good.
Oh, I love
Excellent.
that. Okay, now,
Good.
the genesis, and then we'll get to it. Saturday night, this past Saturday night, my daughter, my oldest daughter, who has a nose for moving into the right neighborhoods just before they're ready to boom.
Right.
She established herself in the south end of Boston, opened up a couple of upscale restaurants, bought a brownstone for short money, did very well, and moved on to Jamaica Plain when the market stabilized. Before Jamaica Plain boomed. She has a Pilates studio currently in Cambridge, and as you well know, Cambridge, Somerville, that was booming. So her kids went down to Florida, and she said, "Daddy, I'm lonely." I said, "Well, come on, I'll take you out for dinner." And we went to Tony's. She loves Tony's, and had one of those, right up the street here, steak tips. And then she just wanted to drive around a little bit. Sean, this is amazing. We drive by Rossetti's. I show her where Rossetti's is. Packed. Go by the Blue Ox. Packed. We go up Market Street. What's that place with the tea?
Tatiana's.
Packed. The whole place was packed. And she's looking at me, and she knows food because she was in the restaurant business. And she said to me, she looked at the architecture in the city of Lynn and the downtown, and her statement, Mount Vernon Street. Remember we did the show on Mount Vernon Street,
Yep.
right? And she said categorically, "Lynn's hot, Lynn's in." That's where that expression came from, and she's right. Folks, is my daughter Paula correct? Is Lynn in? 781-596-9641.
Right.
Is Lynn in?
It-
Dennis, is Lynn in?
I believe it is.
Tell me why.
Well, recently there have been like a lot of people coming into the city
Uh-huh.
just to see what's going on, and since it's in the Boston area, it's a great place to come see. It's next to Salem, and you have like a lot of great restaurants in the area and a lot of things to come by and just take a look at.
Sean, you were familiar with the auditorium, right? Now, I didn't realize that they had a show actually this weekend. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you think that was the thing that drove these people? Oh,
George
pot show?
Thorogood, right?
Yeah, George Thorogood, bad to the bone. I've been saying Lynn's in since the day I was here.
No, you didn't. No, Paula did. You picked up on it now.
Yeah, I could say that. I've always had a lot of pride in Lynn, and I think the city really breeds pride in a lot of people. But it's a collection of things. The auditorium has a huge, huge part of why people are going out and enjoying the nightlife here in Lynn. And back in the 20s, when this is what it was. Lynn was about the nightlife. You'd come here to watch your movies. You'd come here to see a theater. So people are kind of really realizing now that it's a happy medium between Boston and the rest of the North Shore. There's plenty of real estate to be developed here, especially when it comes to commercial. I think people are really recognizing that, one, it's a huge inner city with a lot of consumers who are all really just all different cats of all walks of life.
Here's the thing, what Paula noted, and you've been on top of this, in our private conversations. Mount Vernon Street's got some awfully nice condos that went up there. The market crashed, and they didn't quite.
They ended up doing apartments,
Right.
renting them instead of selling.
But Paula said to downtown, and what she was surprised at, you don't need a car. She says you could live in Lynn, in one of the downtown condos, Union Street, Andrew Street, or wherever. Go to fine restaurants. You got Ernie's right up the street. You have to go shopping, right? If you want to go to the beach, it's walking distance, or otherwise get a bike. You need to go to Boston? Go up a couple of stairs, get on the train, bingo, you're in Boston. You don't need a car.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big part of really developing Lynn is creating access for the T. We already have it on the commuter line, but there are a lot of people who are huge advocates of extending the blue line here. I only think that it's just going to create more of an opportunity for Lynn, especially when it comes to developing business.
You mean the blue line?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced on that, but we'll talk about that.
Plus the
some other
ferry too. It's all about
time. I like
accessibility.
the ferry. I like the train. you want to have a little bit of isolation. A little bit.
You do.
Yeah, I do.
Well, keep
I
in
do.
mind one thing about, about what's going on in, what's making Lynn in part is it's affordable. Keep that in mind. I mean,
At this time.
at this time,
Right.
relative to other communities, I mean, if you go over to Swampscott, the real estate tax bill on the same house in Swampscott is probably twice as much as what it is here, and it probably costs 75% more to buy it. Those kinds of things play a big role.
But here's the thing that Paula mentioned, though, that really I think we ought to think about, and I think the folks out there ought to think about, too. We certainly need a theater, and the theater has to be in downtown Lynn. We just got to find some space, whether it's, grabbing Anthony's Hawthorns and putting in even a performing arts theater, even in competition with the auditorium.
What about Arts After Hours?
We have one,
Yeah.
Arts After
Where?
Hours.
I mean, Corey Jackson.
I saw a play there
Where?
last was it maybe a year ago now at Arts After Hours. It's in the old bank building where they have Lynn Arts. It fits like 60 or 70 people, but they do plays. We saw this I have to say it was like an R-rated, maybe an X-rated play about the Muppets. I mean,
Avenue Q.
Avenue Q. I never laughed so hard in all of my life.
You sick man, you.
We made it an event for Gliss. It was available to all
You
employees.
took all those senior citizens there?
No, it was employees,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
and we had a blast.
I'm sure you
It was-
did.
And
Adult beverages?
adult beverages, beer and wine. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, they do a fabulous job. The actors are good.
How come I never heard about it? I'm supposed to be on the income. Did you know about this place?
I did.
You're isolated.
Did you know about it too?
I did.
Well, how come we don't know about it?
They're
yeah,
isolated.
What's the name of it?
Here's it.
Arts After Hours.
Arts After Hours?
Arts
Yeah,
After
I got it.
Arts,
Where is it
as they
located
say.
again?
It's on Exchange Street. It's right across the street from the Item.
Really?
It's in the old.
Does anybody go there?
Yes, they're always sold out.
Yeah.
Hey,
Where the old Easter Bank used to be? I mean, the Essex
Was
County?
it Essex County Bank? Yeah.
Used to be?
It has a big
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
alarm box on the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Lynn Arts is.
That's what it is?
One thing I want to point out about Arts After Hours, I mean, is the fact that we're on entertainment. That's another big factor that we need here. When it comes down to like a place like Arts After Hours, these guys bang out shows. And I've done theater before. It usually takes a period of like 2-3 months to like get everything down between your blocking and your lines. And these guys are doing all of that, creating music within weeks. And they're doing a phenomenal job.
Do you know what the first person in Paradise, what his name was?
No.
Adam. Adam is the man. Adam, how are you this evening?
And I can't hear you guys because my headphones
Can
are
you
on.
speak up a bit, because I can't quite hear you? Good evening, Adam.
Oh, hi. My bad.
How you doing? Is he there?
Go ahead, Adam.
Hello. I think Lynn is in. I've been in the city for quite a couple of years, and it's a really cool place. I mean, sometimes the traffic and people are just kind of jerks, but I mean, whenever a storm comes, watching the water come up over the railings and whatnot during the summer, it looks really pretty. And then, just like how Dennis works tech, or he goes to tech at school, the community activity that we have here sometimes can be really nice. And I just think that's pretty cool. Not every city has that.
Adam,
There's a lot of
to the
community
city.
involvement and stuff, especially with the co-op program too.
Adam, are you new to the city?
No, I'm not new to the city.
Well, thank you for the call, Adam. Thank you for being a viewer.
Yeah.
And this is all we're trying to do, folks. Is Lynn in? 596-9641.
And I want to say something about the downtown portion of Lynn, which is where Arts After Hours is, where these restaurants are.
Yeah,
that
I
you're
didn't know
talking
about. Yeah, go
Where
ahead.
Demici's is, where the new hamburger place.
Ooh. Two. There's two new hamburger places, aren't there?
One of them's gonna be opening
Yeah,
soon.
it's the
You're
place.
talking
that-
about the Sullivan one from Somerville.
Right.
But also, did they open one on Western Avenue, didn't they?
Maybe. But anyway, so I want to focus on the downtown.
All right. Well,
We have a
after
call for-
Calvin says what he has to say.
Calvin, you always get to go first.
Go on, Calvin. I love Calvin.
But I do think that
By the way.
I might have been one of the first ones that says Lynn's in.
No,
About 13 years ago when
Oh.
we formed the Gateway Project for Lynn, our tagline, in fact it's on our stationery, is Lynn, the city that's in, with an exclamation point.
He is. He's
Calvin, please give me a break, will you? I mean, you cannot match the city's voice. I mean, this is it. Sean?
I mean, there's very well likely he could have been
Don't stutter now.
limousine for him.
Dennis, you've been our camera guy. Can anybody match the city's voice for innovative, local stuff? Huh?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can or cannot?
I do. I believe.
I don't know about that.
I believe so much.
1 minute before break, huh? Sean, don't you? Calvin, what else do you have to say?
Oh, nothing new tonight. Just wanted to tell you, yes, Lynn is definitely in.
I like that. I think you're right, Calvin. Lynn is in. It's the place to be.
And
Right.
and what I want to say about
Go
the
ahead.
downtown is that a lot of people that live, say, out in West Lynn or up in Ward 1, Ward 2, out on the peripheral, people who are, as you put it, kind of isolated, are not truly experiencing what's going on in the downtown. Everybody has this vision of the 1980s when it was Potemkin's Village with all of the boarded up buildings with pictures of people on it and all that kind of stuff.
I'll let you get into that.
And with some of the problems that we've had in the past with crime and whatnot. While it isn't completely gone, it is vibrant. I'm here every single day during the downtown.
And when we get back, you're going to tell us more about that. Stay tuned. And we're in. How can Calvin possibly think that he coined that phrase when I know for a fact that it was my sweet daughter, Paula? And you know this, Paul, because I called you immediately.
Well, you did. And then let me just say one thing about it. Regardless of who coined the phrase, the concept is real. Lynn is definitely in, and it's on the upswing. And I think as residents of the city of Lynn, as people in the community, we need to be really focusing on how we can propel the concept of Lynn is in a way that keeps the momentum going. We're in an upswing in the economy. A lot of transactions are starting to happen on the real estate. Let's be focused on making sure it's the right type of transactions. You know, we've got enough dollar stores in the downtown. We don't need any more. You know, let's start getting some businesses that are going to attract more of the dollars in the community and so forth. Really start thinking about how to plan the city of Lynn better.
You're really enthusiastic about
I
this.
certainly
Paul.
am, yeah.
Sean, you are too, huh?
I really can't stress enough how much I love the city. I mean, there are a lot of people out there watching are probably thinking the same thing. And you make a good point. I mean, there are a lot of transactions which are happening in the real estate market, so hopefully that they're the right ones and we can create more homeowners around here. Lynn has plenty of diverse food.
Can you hold it for a second?
Yeah, probably.
Because Virginia wants to speak. Dennis, we're going to get to you right after Virginia. Virginia, how are you this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
Is Lynn in, Virginia?
I'd like to ask, Joe, I know you from Eastern Bank many years ago, but I'd like to ask you, what are we doing to hold Union Hospital open? I'm really kind of ticked off about that they should come in and turn it into a mental hospital with a nursery school right across the street and 2 elementary schools within blocks of it.
You know, Virginia, that's a subject that should be brought up to the politicians that the people in the city of Lynn entrusted their future to. They should think about it a little deeper. because that should never have happened in a city that has 90,000 people to be without an acute care hospital. That is a crime, Paul.
I agree.
Fine.
I agree.
Well,
And you know, Virginia, I can't give you an answer to it. Paul, I don't think you can. None of us can, right?
I can say that there is some good news. If
Well,
you,
give
if
the
you've
good
been,
news.
If
I'd
you've been
like to hear
reading in the
some.
papers in the last couple of weeks, the courts ruled against the merger of the South Shore Hospital
Really?
with Partners, which really set back the whole growth prospects of Partners. Now, whether that means that they're going to be more aggressive about doing it here, or whether or not they back off and say maybe we got to go about this a little differently, remains to be seen. But the fact that they lost that bid to acquire a huge community hospital on the South Shore, tells me that maybe they don't have the kind of clout that they've.
And Charlie Baker, he
they've been
knows a lot
flaunting it
of.
around.
Charlie Baker may be a different thing too, right?
Right.
Coming
And
in.
Maura Healey, who replaced Martha Coakley as Attorney General, has not been did not agree with the arrangement that Coakley made with Partners. She is a staunch opponent of cutting deals with what they do is they cut these deals that are they have sunset provisions in them. Force them to play by their set of rules in the beginning, and then over time they get to peel them away, and then sky's the limit again. So it's kind of like what Obama wants to do with Iran. Wait 10 years and then let them build a bomb.
I mean, it means nothing.
Right.
Kick the can down the road. Dennis, you want to know something? This guy here was born in the frozen food section of the Stop and Shop. Am I right? Huh?
That's what my mother says.
That used to be Lynn Hospital that was there. And I grew up with Lynn Hospital and Union Hospital, and you're going to grow up with no hospital.
Well, throw that bombshell on me, why don't you?
At least he's already
Poor
been
guy.
born.
Huh?
At least he's already been born.
Speaking of which,
true.
and this is one of my tangents. Folks, did you take a look at your electricity bill this month? I got it today. I almost had a coronary. Have you looked at your electricity bill?
Yeah, every
Did you?
month.
35%.
At least. I called them up. You know what they said to me?
Pound sand.
We need more coal.
No, they told me they bought all the stuff. They call my supplier. I said,
Right, all they do is deliver
I said,
it.
what are you talking about, supply? Where you were just delivery?
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean delivery? They said, well, we bought the fuel in November. I said, so what does that mean? Well, they bought it at a high price, so they're benefiting because they ended up with a low price, and they buy it again in May, and they charge us accordingly.
Well, the bigger problem is, as Barack Obama said when he was campaigning in 2007 and 2008, electricity prices will necessarily skyrocket under his strategy. He's closing down all the coal plants and all that kind of stuff, which is making the ability to produce electricity that much more difficult.
And he won't drill, baby, drill, right?
Right.
None of this.
Right.
I like this drill, baby, drill idea.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you what I mean. I mean, I get more gas, more energy, and the prices go down. Increase supply, okay, it offsets demand, and the prices go down. But when you got ideologues running the country, what do you expect? I mean, my electricity bill's gone up, my tax bill has gone up, I have no hospital,
I know
and
all
I
the
got a
buttons
city
to
that's
press.
in. And I got a city that's in.
Well, like, what do you? I mean, you're talking about your daughter Paula. I mean, what about her kids and their kids?
What about who?
What about the people, the future?
Well, you're presupposing that because there is a coal plant or because we drill for oil that we're going to make a dirty planet. We're not. We have a clean planet. There is no more pollution. Pollution has been basically eradicated. It was eradicated
kidding.
back in the 70s.
Oh, but we have global warming. Even though my electricity bill and my fuel bill went skyrocketing, 'cause
And we
it was so
have
cold.
100 inches of snow.
And we get scientists who are being pillared. I'm telling you, this global warming thing is fallacious, right? It's why? Do you believe in that stuff, Sean? Wait a minute, I'm going to put you on a. Do you buy that?
Well, I mean, what makes you believe that type of change can happen? Because when you look at the history of the Earth, I mean, we've gone through ice ages
I have
before.
looked at the history
Right.
of
You
the
know,
Earth.
we've
Yeah,
gone.
remember
through
all
that
the
type of
cars back in the dinosaur
Yeah,
age
but
that were causing all that?
Well, I'm not saying it's totally attributed to us in pollution, but you can't really think that it has no effect whatsoever. I mean, Paul, you just mentioned that there was no pollution whatsoever. You walk down the street of Western Ave once all the snow melts, and you tell me whether or not there's no pollution. You know, you go and you hear about pollution in the oceans. I mean, it's definitely there in the air. It's like,
Sean,
I think that we should really
you
consider
brought up
that.
history. Now I'm
we
going to give
turned
you a
it
fast
around.
history lesson.
I'm ready.
Okay. In August of the time of our Revolutionary War, in Boston, at 100 degrees, they had no air conditioning, by the way. They had a big trench on Boylston Street. The reason why they had the big trench on Boylston Street, because they used to throw all the swill and all the garbage in there. And then they'd release their animals to go in and eat it. That's pollution.
Yeah.
And they had the bubonic plague and everybody's dropping dead. If you don't think we've come a long way, baby, since then, something's wrong with you.
Here in the developed country, I would say 100%.
Uh-huh.
But the fact of the matter is that
I
there
love
are a
that
lot
phrase.
of other people out there in the world who don't have all the amenities that Americans have.
No,
So
really?
it's still going on. I mean, and you just admitted to
But
the
let me
fact
ask you
that
a question.
it was pollution.
It's true, it is still going on. And then who looks in the mirror to why is it going on?
I think what we need to really consider is how to create cleaner fuels. That would be nice. Because it's like, why not? Because
But why hit us over the head with it and force us to spend more money to do it?
It's
unnecessary.
bad timing, wrong time, wrong place. We're the generation that needs to really make the change. You think about like science, right? It's only been around for what, 200 plus years?
No, it's been around since the onset, since Adam.
Developed
since
science.
Adam, it's been around. Science is not a new phenomenon.
No, but I mean recorded. I mean it's used, the data. I mean it's come a long
Let me
way
ask-
in the past 200 years.
Dennis, let me turn to a young student. Dennis, you had to study chemistry and that type of stuff at school, right? Biology, right? They always tell you about the theory of evolution?
Yeah.
Okay. As if it were fact.
What my teacher did, he didn't like throw it out as fact, since he himself is Christian. So he
Why,
kind
is
of
there
gave us.
conflict between being a Christian and evolution?
He didn't see it as a conflict. He saw it as a scientific theory.
That's exactly what it is. He's right.
Yeah. So
It can't be proved.
Yeah, he
It may
didn't
not
say
be
it
right.
was like a true fact. He said it could be.
Exactly. And that's the same with global warming, and that's the same with all this stuff. Let me give you an example, my dear friend, and we're going to get into that segment. In the city of Lynn, article, today's item, crime rate going down.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the graphic. If we do, we can put it up. But it's gone down 5% since last year, and 9%, Paul, trending over the last 3 years. Simultaneously, the amount of guns that have proliferated in the city of Lynn has gone up exponentially. And yet the crime rate has gone down. The mantra from the liberal left is that, oh, guns kill people, we must get rid of guns. The reality is that in every place where guns are around, the crime rate goes down. We have your strictest gun laws, control laws, like Chicago. It's like the Wild West. Now, why is that? So what appears to be logical isn't. That's
Yeah.
my point.
Isn't necessarily.
Exactly.
Do you think it has any correlation to do with maybe legal gun owners, more responsible gun owners?
With what?
I mean, there's obviously a rise in people who are becoming gun owners, whether it be legal or illegal. So I mean, maybe this number is in regards to more people being licensed gun owners and knowing how to use their firearms.
That's good, because those are the folks I want to have guns. The licensed ones that are responsible. The other guys, I don't want having guns.
Right.
The problem is they're the ones that have the guns,
Well,
only.
because they have the guns, we need to have guns too.
Right. Right. What's that expression? If guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have
Right.
guns? Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
when was the last time a gun walked out of the closet and started shooting people?
Right.
On its own. Never happened.
Never
right?
does.
And by the way, one of the great eras of my lifetime was called the Cold War. The Cold War is that we had a whole bunch of nuclear warheads, and the bad guys had a whole bunch of nuclear warheads, and consequently, neither one of us shot at each other. But if
Mutual
one had
assured
and the other
destruction.
didn't, trust me, they would have been flying like crazy.
Yeah. I don't even think the Cold War ended. I mean, it's still pretty prevalent
You got a
today.
point
isn't
there.
it?
Well, it's coming back.
Yeah.
I think
It's getting colder.
well, in the 90s, what did,
No global
what
warming.
did Clinton call it? The peace dividend, when he
Yeah.
started cutting the military?
Peace dividend meant spend all your money on EBT cards.
Yeah.
We have a half a minute before we go to the break, and our number here is 596-9641.
How about if I make some
And
announcements?
we're into this, what we call free association period. But anyways, Lynn is in, and we're going out on a quick break. Again. And part of the reason why Lynn is in, I remind you, because of the work of LynnCAM TV and promoting, and we strive for the truth here at the City Voice and LynnCAM TV. And before I get to that little number, Paul, you have something you have to do. And by the way, tell the folks what happened after that show last week, because it was really heartwarming.
I'm glad you brought that up. So 5 minutes after last week's show, which we were talking about the Vets Roll trip, where we're going to raise about $50,000 to bring 45 vets and their companions down to the...
Yeah, but what vets? That's the important thing.
World War II vets.
So they're not kids.
Right. Down to D.C. so that they can see the War Memorial. When I was leaving, my phone rang, and I didn't answer it right away because I was kind of talking or whatever. When I got home, I checked it. And it was a woman, Malvina Pelletier. And by the way, Malvina, thank you so very much for your generosity. She called up and to tell me that she wanted to donate $500 to sponsor one vet in honor of her husband, who was deceased but was a World War II veteran. How's that?
It's unbelievable. We have now until September, not quite September, they're going late September, correct?
Yep.
And if anybody wants to contribute, they get a hold of Gliss. And you had wonderful, two young ladies that were on here.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more information to follow, but basically,
So we'll be
if you
able
just
to-
called Gliss and asked to
We'll let them know.
Yeah, I talked to Maureen Teal or Stacy Mancello.
Great ladies.
Yeah.
And you have something else to
Okay,
do.
so just some updates for future shows. I just wanted to quickly talk that next Wednesday, Katarina's coming back to talk about saving Union Hospital.
Well, it's topical.
for
Virginia was ahead of time, yeah.
Yep. Francis Martinez from the North Shore Latino Business Association on March 18th. Charlie Gallo, soon to be ex-Lynn City School Committee member, is coming on April 1st. I think he wants
That's April Fool's
to
Day.
talk about Gordon College, but we'll see.
I want to talk about whether we should have some males on the school committee, because guess what? There are none.
Right? Well, there won't be.
Talk about diversity.
Okay, and then there's three more. April 15th, we have Bonnie Carr from the Lynn Tech Co-op program. I'm sure you know Bonnie, right?
Is Dennis coming back then? Are you going to be doing that show for us?
I have no idea.
And this is a specific, I made a specific request for Dick Arconi. Dick, I know you're watching at home. We're getting Council President Dan Cahill's coming on April 22nd
We
to
got
talk,
Dan Cahill to come on, huh?
to talk
That's going to
about
be fun.
Boston Street zoning and other city matters. That'll be a good one.
So Danny's coming on.
Yep.
My boy.
And you know what he told me today? He said he referred to you as his favorite and his best teacher.
He knew.
Yeah, he can't wait. cannot wait to get on so he can interact with you.
He was a terrific. I am a student, you know.
Yep.
Good student,
Yes,
by the way.
April 29th, Leslie Gould from the Chamber of Commerce will be on. So we got lots of good guests coming on, and keep watching.
Yeah. And they're all going to be talking about Lynn is in.
Yep.
How do you like that one, Calvin? Huh? You think you're going to grab that from us? Forget it. So, where were we?
We were going
I've
to
had a
talk
senior
about
moment.
LynnCAM, I think.
We were, weren't
yeah,
we?
Yeah, you were
Now,
telling
you tell us about LynnCAM. I know that. I mean,
Yeah, so let me ask a question.
yeah,
Sure.
do it.
Sean,
Right.
can you tell the members of our audience what they can do to become a member of LynnCAM so that they
Good
can
point.
learn all about what goes on here and you know,
Sure.
maybe do some of the things like we're doing?
Sure. So what we do at LynnCAM is a lot like what every other public access station does. We enable members of the community to exercise their First Amendment rights via broadcast media. That's what we do here, and that's what we care about. So anybody can become a member here. Students are free. So if you're studying, if you're in school, come on down and we'll help you figure out a way to become a member. Your first step is, one, filling out all the applications, your access user agreement, the code of conduct. Then you have to go through training with either myself or Pedro. We have two aspects of media here: field production versus studio production. This is an example of studio production. So I teach field, Pedro's teaches studio, and Dave handles all the equipment renting and make sure we need things replaced. So if anybody's interested in becoming a member, I would just suggest jump onto our website, lynncamtv.com, and you can find all of the rates that are associated and figure out all the different ways that you can get involved. We've got memberships for all different types of guys, whether it's a business owner to a nonprofit, to an individual, to maybe a crew of people. So the opportunity here really is limitless. It's a matter of what you want to put in. So that's how you become a member.
Joe and I are members, right?
You
Yeah,
are.
we are. Dennis, how long, if you remember, obviously, right? How long have you been involved with LynnCAM TV?
I don't think I'm necessarily a member.
You are. You're an
You
intern.
are by virtue of the fact that you're a student.
You're a de facto member.
De facto.
Okay,
Good
fair
word.
enough.
Good.
I've been involved in LynnCAM since the ending of June. It was like right after I got out of junior year, I started interning here. It was like the day after junior year, I started interning here. And it's just been a great experience ever since. Has been ups and downs, but I've learned a lot. I mean, what I was doing back in my shop is nothing compared to what I do in here.
Well, let me tell you something. Paul and I have commented often about the great camera work you do for us on this show.
Yeah.
We see it, and I'm serious, and this is not blowing smoke at you, kiddo, either. And I appreciate it, and I thank you for it. Nice job you're doing, Sean.
It's him.
serious.
It's his work. It's their work.
Our number here is 596-9641.
596-9641.
That's right.
That's my number too.
All
So.
right. Now,
It's our number.
now, I want to go to your experience both at Tech and at Northeastern and what this young man's doing and the concept of apprenticeship. Because I want to know whether you folks out there think that maybe it's time, just maybe, that the Lynn school system, instead of going to war with Kip Academy, turns around and decides, hey, maybe, just maybe, we ought to bring the apprenticeship program, internship, cooperative program back into the school system as a curriculum. I like to throw that out there.
Well, you know, what is the main reason why we educate our youth? It's so that they can become productive members of society, right?
Thank you.
So if the real end game is to get from being, you know, snotty-nosed kid who's just running around playing to being a productive member of society, they need to be able to learn how to work, how to be responsible, show up for work on time, be committed to showing up every day, being respectful of your boss, taking pride in the work that you do, and all that kind of stuff. Why shouldn't that be part of our educational curriculum? I don't get that. Why they would ever want to say, well, you got to get right, you got to get the MCAS test right. That's more important than making sure that you're going to be a productive member of society. To me, doesn't make any sense at all.
Folks, here's a perfect example of why the co-op program or the apprenticeship program is such a great idea. Right here's a young kid who's a product of it, and here's a gentleman who became a beneficiary of it, basically.
Right. Well, and let me just say, now I know you're here and you're been apprenticing or interning here for about a year, and you've got an arrangement where you're making a little bit of money. But now there's other places beyond these borders. You know, you can go maybe easier to get into a college like Emerson College or something like that, or maybe you can get a job working at a local news station or a radio station, because you've already got some of this background, and you know, there's nothing that they like more than somebody who already knows what they're doing. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be better than, you know, acing your I don't know, your
Test.
geography test. You know?
Don't you say that. No. Geography is critically important. As a matter of fact, Sean, we're going to do a show. We're going to cooperate to do a show.
Yes.
Which is a nice quiz show. And you have on the website, you have, do we need a music program? And I say we do.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
And what I want to do with LynnCAM, Paulie, and you and I are part of this program, I want to take Keith, my boy Keith, who has a little band up at English High School, let's tape it in studio, play it, and then guess what? Get one from Tech, get one from Classical, and have the battle of the bands, huh?
There you go.
What do you think?
I think it would be a swell idea. I mean, we got a lot of people. First of all, I just want to point out, whether or not you guys know this, I'm going to assume you don't, but there's an underground hip-hop scene in Lynn, and it's huge. It's very big. We get people who come in all the time talking about promises of developing a music show. The problem is, well, I shouldn't say the problem, but the obstacle is producing it. We were talking about internships beforehand and how important it is for kids to get working experience, and I couldn't agree more. In fact, I mean, I think that it should be part of every curriculum across the board, whether you go to classical, St. Mary's, Tech, or even English. Even KIPP, project-based learning is a huge, huge part in developing contributing citizens. You've got a young woman, and I'm so sorry, her name is slipping me right now, over at Lynn Woods. Went into this project last year where they were teaching kids project-based learning, and what they were trying to do was stop invasive plants from Lynn Woods. Now, we're sitting here and we're like, invasive plants, like what does that mean? Well, there are plants that are not natural to that habitat, and over time they can be
like
destructive.
milfoil in Sleuth Pond.
So they can be destructive. So these kids went out around their neighborhood within that area, and they reached out to all these people and tried to educate them about invasive plants and how to plant their plants. And they actually won a competition where Animal Planet came on into their school, Lynn Woods, my alma mater, by the way, 4 points in my elementary basketball career. But it was cool. I mean, these kids.
2 more than Paul.
Yeah, I mean, not only. That wasn't that good. We should play for kicks. It'd be funny.
Tomorrow night at Classical, the old Classical, 6 o'clock.
It'll be a 30-second match. Yeah, but I mean, project-based learning is huge. I mean, and that's really why we're telling students it's free here. Almost anybody can become a member at LynnCAM. We'll accept really anybody who's interested in it. And the goal is to give these kids a one-up, because once you get into applying for a program like at Emerson or even at Framingham, you have to compete against all these other kids who have a well-developed reel. They've had guidance. So I would like LynnCAM to be that guidance for Lynn kids. I mean, there are plenty of students within the city who have talent, like real talent.
I can tell you,
know,
I can attest to that. I agree.
I mean,
You know why? 'Cause
if they
Lynn
need
is
a
in.
shot, they got to be taught how to do it.
Everybody has to be. Look, you know, we talk about the cooperative program, apprenticeship, and things like this. Now, here's the operative question. What public school or what school system did Leonardo da Vinci go to? Or Sir Isaac Newton? Or Albert Einstein?
They've read
They were
books.
basically self-taught.
That's right. So most folks did it by doing. They worked for masters, right? Or they were journeymen or apprentice, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
And then he moved up the ladder.
I mean, going to school, like, definitely go to school and finish
Yeah,
it
we're
and
not-
take English. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, going to work, that was a big, like, learning curve for me. Once I graduated college, like, college is another thing. Like, people are like, oh, college, very serious. And it's really not. It's the real thing that you're learning in college is time management. But once I hit the workforce, like Paul had said, you know, showing up to work on, like, if you're a minute late, that's a problem. You know, when you're in high school, that's really not the case. When you're in college, it's really not the case. But once you hit the workforce, I mean, that learning curve can be detrimental for some people. They can just fall
let me
off.
interject.
Right.
I have always contended that the obligation of public school system is to teach kids how to read, write, and do some math. And then they'll be trained in whatever they want to do by that company or that trade that wants to train them.
There's been a massive shift over the years to one of indoctrination, though, and you know that, Joe. We've had these conversations before.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, making good Democrats, you know, getting everybody to
independent.
believe in global warming. whether it's true or not, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And we need to shift it back to fundamental things like math and English. I mean, there's nothing that frustrates me more than getting a letter from somebody where the grammar is
Not good.
frustrated, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that hard to do. I mean, you have to stay with it, you have to work at it, you have to practice. I mean, it's important.
It is, and it's important that we take a break right now. We'll be back. Five 9641, that's our number. Lynn's in, and we're going to a different place now. In Lynn, when it comes to crime, there are some ups, there's some downs. There's some smiles, there's some frowns. You like that, huh? Pretty good, huh? And a
Way too
whole
much
bunch-
time on your hand, Joe.
You like that? And a whole bunch of contradictions.
Such as?
Such as, if you in fact, as is Captain Carpenter, or it's a Chief Carpenter?
Chief Carpenter.
Sorry about that, Chief. Chief Carpenter pointed out there's been $1 million cut in the police budget over last year. They no longer have the guys on the bikes, which I like, by the way, personally.
I think they make a big
You know?
difference.
Heck
And
yeah.
yet, what happened to the crime rate?
Went down?
Yeah. So they cut the budget, crime rate went down.
Keep cutting it.
So
Right?
what will happen then if we keep cutting it?
No one will get arrested.
Right, and then crime will be at zero.
Yay!
And that's
So we know when to record the crime.
Right, and that
We artificial.
and that's the key, is the crimes are happening, but there's not enough resources to stay on it. You know, my biggest beef has always been, you know, this business between prevention and what I like to refer to as chasing the bad guys, or the enforcement end of it. We spend all our time chasing the bad guys, so we're going after them after they commit the crime, instead of focusing on things that will maybe engender a better relationship with the police officers and give people a better sense of their own community, and essentially prevent the crime from happening in the first place. Now that will reduce crime because people won't actually engage in that behavior, and as opposed to not keeping track of a crime because we didn't have time to even go to the call.
I want to turn to the younger generation. What about you? I mean, how do you see
Are
it?
you asking him how many crimes he's committed? You
None,
know,
I swear.
10, he said
I like
10.
that.
He said 10.
Hands
Come on,
up,
Sean.
don't shoot. No. I want to get a perspective from someone who's living daily in the city and may be exposed to a environment that's made a little different than that of mine.
Well, since social media is such a huge thing in the younger generation, we see all these videos of like bad cops always going after people that don't deserve this this punishment, and it starts to change the younger generation's mind, thinking that all cops are bad, and so we kind of tend to rebel against them, and it just makes a horrible mix. It contradicts itself because the cops are here
Are
to
you
help
referring
us.
to Ferguson, Missouri?
That and also like other social media
See,
events
that's
that
what bothers
happen.
me, because Ferguson, Missouri was a complete distortion of reality.
I agree.
All right, so, and if that affects, so what troubled me, you mentioned social media, there was a sad situation where this girl kept telling this boyfriend, ex-boyfriend of hers, to commit suicide. And he did.
Get back in the car, right?
Yeah. And they're trying to try her on manslaughter.
Right.
I mean, that's sad.
It is.
Well, you know, I think the whole social media thing is, well, it's you know, we're Jetsons type space now with all this technology and whatnot, but we're as a culture having to adapt to this and try to get the best out of it without getting destroyed by it. I mean, there are some things. I mean, people who posting on Facebook and, you know, getting in trouble for doing it, and, you know, tweeting and social media things that, you know, essentially people using a mass media enterprise to convince you something that really isn't true.
Yeah.
I don't really believe. I mean, there are bad cops. There are bad TV hosts. I mean, there's everything, right? There's bad in everything. But most people are good, and I think that this business of, you know, trying to convince an entire millennial group or whatever that somehow the cops are bad and things have to change is just flat out wrong.
It has a lot to do with exposure, Paul. It's like you got, I think he's talking more so, I don't think he's really talking about Ferguson or this or that or anything else, but there's a huge influx of these videos online about cops misbehaving. And the thing about it is that you see it like from the point of the action. You never really see what happened beforehand. Yeah. Again, like you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's about exposure, what we're exposed to. The internet's great. But it's important for people who are reading to really understand like what they're reading.
Let's talk about context.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but like, I mean, find your favorite journalist to follow. You know, like don't
somebody that you can trust.
Right. Don't just pick up a link off of Facebook and assume, oh, this is right. You know, I've seen people see links with huge articles and just share them, not read it or anything, and just share it. And it's kind of funny because some of these links are actually just jokes. Like there are actually joke websites out there with fake news. So I mean, you know, the viewers really got to consider like what they're looking at. That's a big thing. You know, read.
I remember a friend of mine used to tweet me or email me or text me an article that he'd want me to read, and I'd read it. And he's a fanatical kind of guy about what's going on over in the Middle East. You know, so it'd be the story about how you know, for example. In Lebanon, they said 12 757s disappeared, right? After, not in Lebanon, in Libya, after, you know, their government collapsed. And, you know, it sounds real, and so I'm going back and forth with them, trying to understand. I said, so what sources are you relying on? And we had that kind of conversation, and it gave me a sense afterwards that I felt exactly the way you felt, is that you got to know who's providing the information before you believe it. For example, channels 4, 5, and 7, they only tell you what they want you to hear. If you want to know what's going on, you've got to go and look for other sources to get the counter views on things, because otherwise you're going to be convinced of all the wrong
things. This is where the media, and this is where things get amiss, and where our emphasis is off. Talking about crime rate versus reality perception, the rest of it. You can play with all your stats all you want, but there's an epidemic taking place in his age bracket, in the city of Lynn, that's tragic. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's pushing it, and it's the fact that heroin ODs are skyrocketing. So crime can go down all at once on the margins, 10 or 15% or whatever it may be, or 5 or 9. But if you've got young people dying at the rate they're dying from heroin addiction, something sad and wrong about it. And no one's talking about it, Paul. No one's talking about it. When you get kids over...
Well, we talk about it. We've talked about it
regularly. I know we do, but no one else does. Why aren't they picking up on this stuff?
Well, I think you know, the governor's talking about it. He's putting money in the budget to combat it.
It's not a money issue, it's a cultural issue. Tim, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Paul. Listen, I'm glad you brought that up, Joe. That's a big point with me. The city is not going to jump overboard till that problem is gone. I have relatives in Boston, big banking. But anyway, I was down Stop and Shop last week. I'm parked on the Boston Street corner. Walking back, I picked up 3 hypodermic needles. I got them sitting right here in my refrigerator. I'm going to bring them to a nurse. She's going to get rid of them for me. It's not going away. You got to chase the money. They got to launder the money. They're doing it with cash businesses. I mean, people know this. You can't go out and buy a new Lexus without reporting it to the taxman. Where'd you get this money? There are businesses all over Lynn that are laundering money. And how they don't know this, I mean, how the chief of police doesn't know that Dominicans don't do heroin. They don't overdose because they don't do it. They like cocaine on Friday nights. That's something that went through Lynn as public knowledge in the 70s. They don't do it. I'm not saying they're all selling it. That's not the truth either. But, you got to go to the source, chase the money. And if you need more budget money for it, there's your money. You seize money, you get to keep it. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Tim.
That's great.
He certainly does, and that's so true. I mean, the idea, and I don't know anything about what Dominicans are doing or not doing. I'm not going there at all. But the cash business stuff. That is how you launder money. If you're just a street punk who's selling dope so that you can do your own dope, that's one thing. But when somebody who's doing it as an enterprise,
Right.
they've got to find a way to flow it into the system.
Tom, how are you this evening? Tom,
I'm doing very well.
how you doing?
Very well.
Well, shoot it out.
So for Dennis, I am a fan of you on YouTube, and I use the username Dockerme. If you could please say hi, I'd be very happy, because I love your videos very much.
Docker, yeah, right.
He's embarrassed.
You're not funny.
Oh, this is,
Yeah.
that's hilarious.
So, Tom,
Thanks for the call, Tom.
yeah,
All right, goodbye.
have a great night. In line 2 or 2 minutes left?
I know exactly who that
All
was.
right. We got a couple of minutes left. Dennis, I'm going to turn it over to you for at least 30 seconds. And what would you like to say? Anything. Go in anywhere you want to go.
I kind of want to touch up on the heroin thing.
Yeah.
It is a huge problem.
Thank you.
Like, my cousin, he was addicted to heroin. He had started doing it when he was 18. And he went all the way to 27 until me and my parents, we started trying to clean him up. And it was just a huge problem for him. He wouldn't stop, and he just kept going and going. And he did OD a few times, and it was really bad.
Unfortunately, he's alive. I hope.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. In part, there was an explanation for that they told me, and it had to do with price.
The fact is that heroin is it's the cheapest high on the street, and what they're mixing it with is this. It's the the patch, the nicotine patch that they put on your shoulder. They scrape that off, and that becomes what they cut it with, and that creates a cocktail that's what's leading to the overdoses, according to friends of mine in the police department, and they say that the overdoses are up dramatically, and they think it's because of that ingredient that they're mixing with the heroin.
We have to stay on this issue, Paul. We really do. And we'll interject it, and we promise we'll do that, folks. We're at that wrap-up point, and I want to thank you, Dennis, in particular, not only for being here tonight, what you're doing for your folks, some real poignant points you made regarding a lot of subjects. And thank you for the work you do on the cameras. And Sean, this is a collaborative now.
I'm on board.
You're on board?
I'm on board.
All right.
I'm here 10 to 6 Monday through Friday. So.
Can we put him on board, Paul?
I want to have some more conversations about climate change.
I'm here to
Oh,
help.
with our friend here?
I got more homework to do. And we will.
You certainly do.
Oh, we will have more conversations on climate change.
And I'll tell you what, folks, you think about climate change. When you take a look outside and you see a snowbank that's taller than you are, you better talk to Al Gore and say, what school did you go to, fella?
And remember, climate change. Remember when the planet, all the snow was going to melt off the planet?
Boom. Good night. God bless.
This is my song, dirty streets where I belong. This is my town, this is my city now. This is my city now. my city through my eyes. Looks so pretty. This is my town.